Sue Cowley, a former teacher and author of Getting the Buggers to Behave, is here to offer some no-nonsense advice on how to handle those difficult days in the classroom. She'll be troubleshooting with the help of head teachers, pupils and staff who've all agreed to take part by role-playing situations that highlight some of the key issues. The schools happily stage these scenes, and in our mock makeover, Sue demystifies behaviour management theory to reveal common-sense tips and tricks based on her own experience in the classroom.
School can sometimes feel a bit like a war zone when it comes to dealing with challenging behaviour. But it's not the kids who are the enemy. The enemy is anything that gets in between them and their learning. Today we're going to be donning our flak jackets to deal with those upsetting skirmishes that can break out at the start of the school day. We're here at Summerfield Primary School in Winson Green, Birmingham. On the whole, behaviour here is very good, but like anyone else, they can have their bad days.
Stop! Stop! Boys, stop! Stop! Get up! Can we line up quietly, please?
41-year-old Mark Heritage returned to teaching 5 years ago after a spell in industry. He's the art coordinator at Summerfield, but today he's having a little difficulty with an impromptu football match.
Right, girls, line up!
You're fighting with the boys to get lined up, and then you're getting those to line up. The girls don't want to line up. By the time I got them all lined up, ready to go in, it seems like half the day's gone already.
It's taken us ages, far too long to line up. Can you quietly go in, please? Stop! Stop! Hang your coats are really sensitive. Quietly! You're treading on those coats. Jordan, sit down. Right, Shammer, on your chair, please. Class, we can't do the register with you all talking.
Getting them all sat down and quiet. They just don't want to listen.
Raman? Raman? Raman, are you here or not? You need to be listening.
I just feel so wound up, so tired at this present moment, and the day's only just began. I feel like I've been teaching a whole week.
Stop sucking those chairs, please. Not hear myself speak. James. Boys. Wait, stop. Stop.
Well, we've all had days that have started like that. I've been watching Mark trying to deal with some very common flashpoints of difficult behaviour. I think it's time to give him a hand. Let's not forget, Mark staged his inept start to the day. He's now gamely agreed to have it pulled apart by me. So first of all, the bell goes, and what's going on here then?
Well, the boys are playing football over the back. They won't stop.
Boys, stop!
So you decided to actually go over to them?
Yeah.
What happens to the rest of the class while you're doing that?
The rest of the line, the ones that did stop and line up when I asked, they sort of then start breaking up. So it's like I'm trying to fight one and then losing the other one.
I'd recommend that you stay with your line and that you stand there and give it full-on non-verbal communication. So you stand there. They know the bell's gone, these boys. They might be playing, but they're aware that the bell's gone, the other classes are going in. Stand there looking really mean, give it some of the looking at your watch, yeah?
Right.
I'd leave it for roughly 2 minutes before you actually feel the need to go and intervene. Yeah. And most children, by the time 2 minutes is up, will have realised that something's going on. So let's have a look at the line. What's the line like at this stage?
Where I was positioned, the line was okay, but then it was going out at the back, and like, as I tried to get that part back in, then this part was coming like sort of out. So I was fighting one side and then like sort of losing the other, and it was like sort of just a battle up and down.
You know, I'll often either position myself towards the back of a line, because it's always the rebels who are at the back, you're guaranteed, or I'll pace up and down the line and perhaps stop beside any children who appear not to be lining up correctly. Yeah. I'm a real stickler for a good straight line, eyes front, because it just says to the children, you're not coming in my school, let alone in my classroom, until you are sorted.
Now we're going to go in nice and quietly. in a line to the classroom, nice and quietly. Right, lead on.
So we let the line inside. What happens next?
Well, that's just it. They didn't go in a nice single line. They came in with the football mentality. They were still in the as if they were like charging the pitch. They came straight into the corridor.
What's going on with the coats here?
The boys didn't hang their coats up. They just threw them and like sort of went into the classroom. The girls, I was distracted by the girls who were like sort of just chatting about their pencil case. They weren't taking the coats off. While I was trying to persuade those to put down the pencil case and come in, the boys were like charging into the classroom, so I was losing those as well.
Yeah, I mean the problem with this sort of case where you've got a split focus within the class and you've got more than one group misbehaving is that once you try and actually deal with that kind of attention seeking, then something else kicks off behind you.
Yeah.
I often find it's best to actually just position yourself in front of your classroom door. This is my territory, yeah? Nobody's coming in here until we've got this sorted out, and try not to get distracted into dealing with those sort of minor incidents that can be deferred to later on.
Right.
So you might say something to the boys like, I've noticed what you're doing, it's not appropriate, I'm going to deal with it in a moment. To the girls you might say, you know we have a clear desk policy, we don't get anything out until Sir says so. So it's almost, until you've got them in their seats, you need to defer any of this low-level misbehaviour, which is just getting in the way of you getting on with the lesson, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
So you let them into the classroom, and what happens next?
Well, they come into the classroom like rowdy, and it just took so long to settle them down. I was asking them to stop and stop and stop.
And you were starting to shout a little bit.
Yeah, they weren't listening, they were too engrossed in what they were doing.
Stop! Stop!
Some teachers in this situation will make the mistake of trying to use their voice
Yeah.
to control the level of noise. And once the noise gets to a certain level in a classroom, no matter how loud you shout, and it is doing your voice damage, no matter how loud you shout, the children aren't going to hear you.
Yeah.
And in this sort of situation, I'd always say try some sort of non-verbal signal. So you might just simply stand with your arms folded, looking at your watch, the expression on your face saying, what do you think you're doing? You're wasting lesson time. You might try something else which is a little bit unusual. You might start writing a little message to the class saying, if you won't all be quiet within the next 3 minutes, then you are going to force me to have to give you some sort of sanction. And by the time you're halfway through writing that, they'll all be looking at you. You've got some issues with the furniture here as well, haven't you?
Because the tables are quite close together, they're like sort of leaning across each other and like chatting. So the talking is not just confined to their table, it's like sort of going across the tables because of the because they're quite close together.
Yeah, it's starting to spread, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, obviously, this is going to be constrained by the space you have in your classroom, but it's often worth looking at the classroom and thinking, is there any other way I can arrange the desks so that there's more room between the tables? Because they're children, and it's natural that if they're close to each other, they're having a quick chat about, probably about that infamous football game that was going on after the bell.
Okay, can we stop for the register, please? Okay, stop for the register. Quiet, please.
Now, at this point, you're trying to take the register. How are you feeling at this stage, Mark?
Well, I'm feeling really tired. My voice, I'll say, is really sore and quite frustrated.
Stop. That table, can we just stop?
This, I didn't want to be thinking about. I wanted to be thinking about the lesson that's going on.
Yeah, it's
and
so
like,
frustrating, isn't it, when you can't actually get the lesson underway. Now, as you're trying to take the register, and if the children are still talking when you're waiting to actually start, then I always say that the pause is a very, very powerful technique.
Yeah.
So before you start, you wait for silence. As you're taking the register, you say a name and somebody's talking over it. That's not acceptable.
And Alia.
So you just pause. Instead of jumping out with your voice, you instead take a step back and you just show that that's not acceptable just by stopping for a
Ramen,
minute.
are you here or not?
Yeah.
Right.
And then you can combine that by actually getting down on the level with the children. In some situations, I'd be tempted to just start right from the beginning. Every time a child talks over me,
Stop.
right, we'll start the register again. When you do that, it can feel like you're wasting lesson time. But what you're saying to the children is, my expectation is total silence when I'm taking the register.
Rosie! Rosie, no, you need to listen. Okay.
It's not funny.
Mark's a great teacher, but he is a little too static in the classroom. He's got to learn to use every corner of that space. Sometimes when the class are being really hyperactive, it pays to start patrolling your territory. So if you imagine you're like a cat and the classroom is your territory, and you're going to mark your territory just by moving around it, and the children never know when you might come up behind them and catch them. A few days later, we caught Mark back on the playground front line. Time to try some positive role play, armed with my tips and tricks. So Mark, this time round, things are obviously going a lot better for you.
Yeah, it's a lot better.
And are you feeling a bit better this time round?
Yeah, it's a lot better than before. I say I'm not having to use my voice so much, and it feels calm, it feels nice.
Yeah, you look really calm. Your face looks a lot happier.
Good morning. Morning.
This is lovely here.
Morning, Lee.
When they smile back at you, it's like sort of you can see that they appreciate that. So.
And you're really focusing on the children who are doing what you want, as opposed to, well, they are all doing what you want because they can see that that's the way to get your attention.
Right, would you like to lead?
Look at the difference in the way that they've left their playground selves behind, and they've come in and you know, they're putting their coats up really nicely, aren't they?
OK, one nice straight line, please. Kevin?
And look at where you've positioned yourself.
Yeah, right at the front.
You're saying, this is my classroom, you're more than welcome. You've said good morning to them, they're very welcome to come in, but they're coming in under your rules and not in the way that they might want to come in. So you get them inside the classroom and look at the difference in the way they actually go to their seats.
I think the spacing between the tables has helped lots as well.
Yeah, so there's not all that physical banging against each other and that there's somebody just behind their shoulder who they might have a chat to.
Well done, this table.
And now you're actually waiting to take the register, and you're waiting. What are you waiting for?
I'm waiting for those children to be just the way
Just the way you want them, completely silent.
Thank you. Okay, well done.
And the thing is, Mark, every time you do that, you make it that much easier for yourself the next time, don't you?
Yeah.
Because those children know that this is what...
carry on.
Yeah, this is exactly what I expect.
Yeah.
Safina.
And you must have felt like, now I can get on with teaching my lesson.
And that's how it should be. Like, sort of, I don't need to be thinking about like sort of the coming in, the lining up, the register. That's not. It's the teaching that we're here for, and like sort of, I don't want to be really having to think so much about.
Absolutely. And in terms of the time wasted, you know, the difference is amazing, isn't it? It takes half, a quarter of the amount of time, and you can get on, spend that time on much more positive things.
Yes. Definitely.
Excellent. Well done.
Halima?
Yeah.
Ahmed?
Yeah.
Khalid?
Yeah.
Jordan?
Yeah.
Safina?
Yes, sir.
Well, those are a few ideas to help the start of your school day run a bit more smoothly.
Yeah.
Remember, they're not rules, they're just common sense strategies that have worked for me.
Cowley?
Yes, sir. Join me next time for some more useful tips.
Zeba?